Let's do it. Yo. Welcome back to another episode of the Dear Fathers podcast. I'm your host, James Meeks, and I have my boy here, Jesse Alex. We're excited about another impactful conversation with today's guest. But before we get into it, Jesse, how you feeling today, bro?
I'm good, man. This season has been great so far. Looking forward to chopping it up with this guest, man. I'm a fan of him. He's on one of my favorite shows, so I'm looking forward to unpacking who he is as a dad today.
Absolutely, man. So we'd like to welcome an amazing father and an amazing actor playing the role of Leon from one of the most iconic TV shows out right now, Snowfall. Snowfall. Let's welcome Isaiah John to the Dear Fathers podcast. Isaiah, how you feeling today, bro?
I'm blessed, man. Thank you for having me. It's a pleasure.
Absolutely, man. We appreciate having you. And as Jesse talked about before we got on air, man, Dear Fathers, we all about highlighting, Black fatherhood, showing you guys in another light, man. I'm a father myself. Jesse plans to be a father one day. And every time we look into the media, we see that, Black fathers are portrayed in one way. We're shown as being not present, not active, and not being there for our kids and being everything our kids need. But we know in our community that that's not true, man. So definitely appreciate having you here. And congratulations on your twin there, because that's definitely your baby. You ain't no denying that one at all, bro.
Thank you.
But getting into it, man, we always like to kick off conversations by taking it back. So let's go back to your upbringing, your parents, and like what was your relationship like with your father growing up?
My parents are still married. My dad, he's from Trinidad, grew up in Jamaica, so he's Caribbean. So, and my mom's from New York. So having a Caribbean father in the household was a lot different than a lot of my friends who had like American dads in the household. Like family time was always important. He always cooked dinner. We always ate dinner together. Everything was just togetherness. So that was very impactful for me, and that definitely like was a huge imprint on me and my siblings. So with my son, I do everything with him. I bring him everywhere, as you see. So I'm definitely, carrying down that tradition. But my dad, he was definitely hands-on. I was just thinking earlier, because I used to be into skateboarding. And so he used to take me and my brother to the skate park all the time. Like, I did gymnastics or tumbling. He always took me to my tumbling classes. So he was definitely very hands-on. And he was really close with his father as well. So my grandfather was, heavy into my life as well. So it was just a thing that he was taught and that he experienced, and, he implemented into his household. And so it's just, getting carried on now. But yeah, I have a great relationship with my dad. I love my dad.
Yeah,
Sure.
nah, that's dope, man. I love to hear that because, like I told you before we got on, like reason starting this platform from my perspective was because I grew up without my pops. I didn't have a grandfather around either. But it's dope to see stories like yourself, is that the positive side was passed down from generation to generation. And now you can pass that on to your son. In my realm, I'm looking to kind of break that curse and be that foundation, and kind of starts that within my family. But I want to ask you this, man, like, what's your foundation growing up with your parents? They're still married, your grandfather being around. Like, once you wanted to, kind of get into acting, like what was that, conversations like? Were they open to it? Like what that look like from a parent perspective?
My dad wasn't. So because he grew up in Jamaica, they were really poor. So a lot of Caribbeans, like, you either go to school or you go to school. That's your only option. So when I told him I didn't want to go to college and I wanted to pursue acting, but I was already pursuing acting before I graduated high school. I started pursuing acting at 13, but I didn't get my big break until I was 20 years old. So that was like I graduated 14. That was like 2 years out of high school. So it was a hard conversation to have. I know he wouldn't be supportive of it at first, because he wasn't. He was very, he was disappointed that I didn't want to go to college. But eventually, even way before I booked Snowfall, he was showing his support slowly but surely. My mom was gung ho from the jump. Like she saw it within me from the jump. So it was really, my dad was financially just supporting, me going to LA, me doing X, Y, and Z. My mom was just like there physically, like making sure I was getting everything done. So it was definitely like a team effort with my parents. So if I didn't have their support, I wouldn't be able to be doing what I'm doing today. But yeah, that was a hard conversation to have with my dad, because he was just like, I understand you want to be an actor, but you need a plan B. And I'm like, there is no plan B. But now it was funny because like when I was doing season 1 of Snowfall, like my checks would come in to the mail. I'm in LA. He'll call me and say, "Oh, your check came in today." No, I'm thinking about acting myself. So it was just like, like now he's, oh, yeah, that's fantastic. So it's just one of those things where it just took him some time. I had to show him that I was serious about, my career. And now he be telling everybody at his job, like he's super proud. So it's great to see, for sure.
That's really dope, man. And I think, having that support from your parents, probably helped push you even in times where you felt like it's hard or you might want to give up and things like that, man. So that's really dope. Hats off to your parents, your mom and your dad for both being there and being supportive to kind of push you towards your dreams. But you mentioned one thing that you said that, this is something that you started going after when you were 13 years old. That's really young to start pursuing, a dream such as acting. So what I want to know is like, who like inspired you to become an actor? Like what did you see growing up that said, you know what, I want to do that?
Honestly, I don't know what necessarily sparked that interest. All I know is that when I was really young, my sister and I, my older sister, we used to perform for our parents every weekend. Like I would sing Michael Jackson and dance like Michael Jackson, and we would just put on a performance every weekend, but we were really shy outside of the household. I thought that I made the conscious decision to start acting when I was 13. But one day I was going through my old stuff in my mom's house. I found this book that I wrote in when I was in either 4th or 5th grade. And the question was, what do you want to be when you grow up? And I had put a veterinarian and an actor. I always knew I wanted to be a veterinarian, but I didn't know that I wrote back then that I wanted to be an actor. So that was very interesting for me to see that, because I'm like, wow, I didn't know I wanted to be an actor back in elementary school. I didn't know I was thinking on that level. But what really pushed me to even being entertainment was like my family is very close knit and we help each other a lot. We're very like impactful in each other's lives. And so at a young age, like my mom and my dad, like they helped so many people outside of our family that just inspired me to want to help, a lot of people. And I wanted to have a huge impact on the world. And I knew that the only way I could do that is if I had a career that a lot of people would admire. And I had to be in that position to have a lot of eyes on me so I can be an example and be a positive impact. So that was the conscious decision I made at 13, that's why I wanted to start acting, so that it can come with the notoriety so I can then, on a personal level, have an impact on people's lives one by one. And that was my reasoning at that point to fuel me wanting to act. I fell in love with acting during that process, but at first it was just like, let me try this out to see how it goes. Yeah, so that's how it worked.
No, that's dope, man. I'm curious how that transition, like you said, at first you were kind of like only doing those things within the house, but shy outside the house. Like when did it come to a point where you just comfortable, like just tapping into that outside of the household? Like, was it just a switch that flipped or what?
I think it was the desire to just do something different. And like, I'm a very quiet and observant person. So I'll be the one in the room that's like sitting back, just chilling, watching everybody. So like for me, at that time I was in public school and I was just sitting back. I was like just watching the choices that my peers were making and things like that. And I'm not knocking. Everybody has their own journey. But I was like, okay, I don't want that for myself. I don't want that for myself. I want to do something different. So that pushed me to not be shy anymore, to the point where like when I was doing these like acting classes here in Atlanta or, these acting schools, a lot of casting directors the note that they would tell me is that I could tell you're very fearless in your performance. Like you're not afraid. Like, so that fear eventually left me because I don't know. I just really had the desire to just like pursue this career. So I had no choice but to get rid of that fear or, that little bit of vanity that I had. Yeah.
That's really inspiring, man. Like for you to kind of jump out there after initially like being, shy and only willing to do it in front of your parents, and then, kind of getting out there and just owning it and saying like, this is what I want to do. I got to do it because this is the part of me and who I want to be. So I think that's really dope. One of the things that I was I read about you was that, you know, you were working as a janitor while you're pursuing your dream of becoming an actor. And then to tie it back to what you said earlier, you didn't want to go to college. Like that wasn't a desire of yours. So were there ever days where you felt like giving up on your dream and going after something different?
No. And the reason is because like the support of my parents, when I tell you is huge, it's huge. I didn't have to worry about not having a roof over my head. I just had the responsibility that I had as far as like, you know, whatever bills I had at that time, I just had to make sure I took care of those. But as far as like having a roof over my head, I didn't have those. I didn't have that struggle. So I don't, you know, I just wanted that part to be known. Like I was a janitor, yes, and that is a job that I chose, and I'm very proud of that job. Like, I really enjoyed that job. It taught me a lot of like key things that I feel like every man. Listen, it taught me a lot of key things to implement into my life. So, like during that time, I've gotten discouraged for. I wanted to take a break from acting. I would say that, but it didn't have anything to do with like necessarily my job. It was more so like what I was experiencing as far as pursuing acting. Like when I would audition for a lot of African American roles, they would tell me, "We know you're Black, but you don't look Black, so you don't really fit with this family." So I was
urban enough.
Right. I was hearing that a lot. So hearing that, when you get told you're not basically progressing because of something you can't control. If they told me I sucked at acting, I can better myself. But you're telling me I'm not getting this because of something that I can't control. So that in itself was affecting me, and it made me want to take a break from acting. So that was the only thing that was discouraging, but I never looked at it like I need to do something else. I just was like, maybe I need to step away. And when I said that I wanted to step away, that's when my mom had presented me with the audition for Snowfall, because she's the one that pitched me for Snowfall, because my agent at the time didn't pitch me. So she found out who was casting, and she sent the pitch herself. And then that's when I got the audition for Snowfall. It was around the time that I wanted to like take a break.
Man, that's dope, and I love to hear that, man. And mom's something else, man. How like they just be supporting like our dreams and stuff. And you know, quick story, man. Like when I lived in Atlanta, like I was kind of trying this whole like actor thing. It wasn't really my thing, but I was kind of trying it out. And my mom was like pitching me for stuff, and I got a call from like the TV show The Game, and I was like doing extra and stand-in work and all stuff like that. So it's cool to hear that your mom's was kind of on that same thing and just supporting like what you wanted to do at the time. But even to that point, man, like that moment you got booked for Snowfall. Like walk us through what you felt like. How was that for you? And who was the first person that you called?
So this is how it went. I told where I was a janitor, I was a janitor at a mom and pop small gym. Mm-hmm. And the owner of the gym, she knew that I was pursuing acting because in the time span of me working there, I booked a small role on Barbershop 3. I was only on set for a day. It was just one scene. Then the next day I was back at the gym. And because when Barbershop 3 trailer came out, they put my face in the trailer. So I'm over here mopping floors. And then, you know, Barbershop 3 come on and I'm in the trailer and everybody's looking like, why are you here? You go on TV? And it don't worry like that. I'm still, you know, climbing a ladder. But as far as Snowfall, so once my mom told me I got the audition for Snowfall, we argued because I told her they're going to tell me I'm not Black enough. This is a John Singleton show. It's based in the 80s. I don't even want to waste my time. I don't want to hear that I'm not Black enough no more. Like, I don't want to do it. But she forced me to do it. And once I submitted it, once I did it, I literally was like, bro, I don't want to hear nothing about it. I just literally forgot I even auditioned. So I'm still going to work, whatever. And less than a week later, she calls me while I'm at work and she was like, they want to fly you out for chemistry with Damson Idris. And I was like, I was like, I mean, that's cool. They're not telling me I booked. So if I go there to work, then, you know, who gonna pay my car note? Who gonna pay my insurance? Like, I'm like, they ain't tell me I got it. So, I mean, I don't want to get too excited. But, you know, at that point, it was more so like, you know, stepping out on faith. And I was like, all right, cool. So they flew me out and it was supposed to be like a 3-day trip. So they flew me out on Tuesday. The callback was Wednesday, and if I didn't book, I would have had to go back home Thursday. I didn't tell my boss, I didn't tell any friends. Only people who knew was my immediate family. So my mom, she bought herself a one-way ticket. She was like, "You gonna book?" She bought herself a one-way ticket, and I was like, "All right." So we flew in on Tuesday. They gave me like a script to memorize for the audition or whatever. I get there, we pull up on Wednesday, go to the studio, and literally I get in there, it's like 15 Fox executives in the room, and I'm like, okay, there's 2 other guys auditioning for Leon. I think I was the last one, or there was somebody after me. They were, when I tell you they were dressed like what Leon probably would dress like, they was in character. I was dressed like an Atlanta. You know what I'm saying? Like I just straight up. I'm like not even dressed in character or whatever. Before they go in the room, I see Damson coming out, like, just building a quick rapport with them, like to build some kind of chemistry before they go in the room. But when it was my turn, he ain't come outside. I went straight in, and it was just like, "Oh, what's your name?" I was like, "My name's Isaiah." He said, "Oh, that's my nephew's name." I was like, "Okay, dope." So that was the only thing we connected on. But he ain't come out and give me the courtesy of trying to build no rapport with me. And I still be telling him that to this day. So I go in there, and there's just a camera. John's not in the room. And they're like, "We know you. We gave you audition sides, but we want you to improv. We want to give you you and Damson a scenario to see how y'all improv together." I was like, bruh. I was like, okay. I was like, at this point, I'm already here. All right, what's the scenario? So the scenario was, I don't know if you remember in season 1 when Leon had went off on that old white man that told him to turn down his radio on the bus.
Mm-hmm.
That was the scenario. So they gave me the scenario. We do it, and I went off on one of the executives because he wanted me to. He's like, "All right, I'm that guy. Just cuss." He basically told me to cuss him out. So I did cuss him out. Like went off, and then after that, I was like, "All right, thanks," and then I just left. And then so later that day, me and my mom, we were just waiting to hear. We didn't hear anything back, and I was like, "Dang, like, guess I'm going back to Atlanta." So mom was like, "I guess I look at flights." But then they called, and they was like, "Hey, we want to pin Isaiah," And my mom was like, "Well, you can't pin him because he leaves tomorrow. So either you want him or you don't want him." And so they were like, "Okay, let's call. We'll call you back." So they called us back. They said, "Can you send us like a high resolution photo of Isaiah?" Don't know why my mom had that, but she had it. So she did it. And then they called back and said, "Okay, we want to book Isaiah." And then so they was like, he can call his job and quit. At that moment, I just called my family, and I was just like in shock. Like I was just shocked. I was like, "This is it. Like this is the start of something great." And after I called them, I called my homeboy, and then I didn't really tell nobody else after that. I was just in LA at that point. So at that point, it said you can't go back to Atlanta, so you got to quit your job. And then we started production, I think, the following week. So I really had a lot of work to do in that week as far as like doing research and, trying to like get into the LA mood and stuff like that. Talk to Dub C a lot. So yeah, that's how that process went. Like my mom didn't even get a return flight. Like she was like, "I'm getting a one way. Like you gonna book this." And she stayed out with me the whole month while I filmed the pilot. And after we filmed the pilot, we came back to Atlanta because once you film the pilot, we sent it off to FX. Once FX cleared it, then filming the rest of it, we had a month off in between. Then we came back to film the rest of the season. So that was a very interesting time. Like it's a huge transition to go from being a janitor to boom, you on TV.
That's
transition.
That's really dope, man, and inspiring, man. And it just shows that your mom is she's definitely a woman of faith, because she knew that y'all was going out there, you was gonna make it happen, and that was gonna be life changing for you, man. So shout out to your moms again, man, for just being that supportive and knowing what her son was gonna do before he even knew it. But one of the other topics, man, before we get into the fatherhood stuff is really around Snowfall, man, because going into Snowfall, it's turned into this classic, iconic show in a lot of ways, right? And then for you, I know you booked Barbershop before, but this is your first major role as an actor, which is a blessing to be a part of something so special your first time out. But how would you describe your growth as an actor over these last 5 seasons?
Man, I'm just way more confident. Like before, I seek validation a lot. Like when I first booked Snowfall, like I would do something like, okay, was that good? Like, how was that? But now I'm like, I'm in my bag. You know what I'm saying? Like I don't second guess myself. Um, so I think each season I was able to learn, and I would say filming Snowfall from the beginning to now has just been like being in acting school. Because if I'm not filming, I get to come to set and watch my castmates film, and I get to sit back and watch. Like watching Damson act, like like he's dope. Watching Michael Hyatt, watching Eamon Joseph, Angela Lewis, like watching all these actors just be in their zone and perform. I learned so much, and it's just amazing to see. I think the confidence is definitely what came because as an actor, when you're performing, the confidence has to be there because you have to one believe it so the audience can believe it. If you're faking it, the audience is going to know you're not being genuine because at the end of the day, we're human. So we all emote and feel pretty much the same. So if you're not believing what you're saying in that moment, everyone else watching you isn't going to believe it. We're not going to feel it.
Yeah.
So my main thing when I'm performing now is to just be as true as possible and try to believe everything that I'm saying. Because if I don't believe it, I know everyone else is not gonna believe it.
Nah, that's dope, man. And I love to hear these stories, man, because like I said, before we started, when we kicked it off, Snowfall is one of my favorite shows, man. So to see the growth from everybody's characters, man, I know like how you saying, you got to believe it to get everybody else to believe it. And it's that one scene where Franklin, you and Franklin in the car, he going off on you, man. You could be real with us, man. You probably want to punch him for real, like like
Like, look, like I be telling everybody when he got in my face and was like, man, what he say? I forgot what he said. When he got in my face, when he was like, when you don't like the way another nigga talk, bro,
Mm-hmm.
funniest thing in the world to me. I wanted to bust out laughing so bad. And I composed myself because I would have messed up the whole tape. It's just imagine somebody that we're just making joke like me and Dad, so we joke in between takes all the time. So we went from joking to that moment. I wanted to look at him and be like, bro, and just start laughing. But I just had to hold in. That's why I just turned my head. I put my head down, and the improv, telling me to drive. But it's so funny because I wanted to laugh so bad.
Nah, that's dope. That's one of my favorite scenes, man. So I had to bring that one up, man. But let's get into what we came here for, man. So you're a new father, your baby boy, your twin. I know you haven't had a lot of skin in the game just yet, but who is Isaiah as a father?
Man, so I'm gonna tell y'all the process from the birth to now. For one, I'm married. So the last 2 months that my wife was pregnant, I was in LA pregnant for season 5. Um, so around the time where it was time for him to be born, I had to, and we dealing with COVID and stuff like that. Like it was a hassle, but made it happen. Got on the plane the day before he was born. Got to the hospital. They induced my wife, and like literally, I was like, I'm talking about, that process was like, I was very hands-on in the process. Like I was there every moment because I wanted to really, take this moment in. It's my first child. I'm not gonna have another first child ever again. So it's just I wanted to like, really take in the moment. Once he was born, it was just surreal. He was super white. Like he looked just like I looked Chinese when I came out. Uh, but he literally like just looked like me. I was like, wow, like I was just taking in that moment. Um, just skin to skin as much as possible because the next day I had to go film.
Yeah.
So it's just I was only able to take in that moment for that day, and then I had to leave. And I missed the first 2 weeks of his life. So we waited 2 weeks until her doctor cleared her to be able to come to LA. So she actually had a family friend drive her. Cause when I go to LA, I drive.
Yeah.
Dog, so I take my protection.
Right. No, that's what's up, man. And even to that point, and James kind of dropped off. We'll let him come back in, but we can keep the conversation rolling because what you're just talking about, we actually have a storytelling series that's based around it. It's called Dads in Delivery. So we get fathers to write in their experience in the delivery room because a lot of times it's just really the moms getting asked about, you know, what their experience was. So I'm glad you kind of touched on that and brought that up as your experience throughout the whole process, because I think that's super important that us as Black men, Black fathers can share what that journey looks like. And appreciate you for sharing that story. So, you know, even moving forward from that, man, like, you know, you're a dad that's, you know, raising a young king. You mentioned kind of before in your upbringing from your grandfather to your father and your family being real close knit. You know, I want to know what are some things that you want to pass down to your son that were passed down to you, but then also too, like, what are some things that you want to teach your son that maybe you didn't learn growing up?
The things I want to teach him that I did have was compassion. I don't want him to be the one to ever put anyone down or make himself feel better. I want him to stand up for those who can't stand up for themselves. Uh, I want him to be a gentleman. I'm teaching him all those things because at the end of the day, I want him to be the complete opposite of what a lot of kids are growing up to be. When I'm around a lot of the youth, it saddens me because, you know, I'm not going to just straight blame it on social media because it starts in the home. But, you know, social media definitely is a part of it. I just don't feel like a lot of kids are being held accountable as well. I don't think that they have the proper love that they need in the home. They don't have any healthy outlets. So I watch human behavior a lot, and I see even, you know, some kids like when I know that they come from a certain upbringing, like when somebody, like let's say somebody trips and fall in front of them and they laugh, it's like, okay, well, why is that kid laughing at that person's pain? Like, why are you doing that? So I'm always like looking at human behavior, like why is that your response? Because for me, you know, growing up, I was a person that would run and help that person. You know what I'm saying? And I want all of my kids to be like that, to be the type to, you know, to help the helpless. And it's just having a pure heart. You know, I'm going to show him that because I have to be that example. I can't just teach him that. I have to show him that. And that's what my parents did. They showed me how to have compassion. They showed me how to have a good heart. To the point where, like, even when like, I didn't make that much money from my janitor job, but when I knew I had money coming in, like I knew my check was going to come on a Friday, like, and if it's Wednesday, like I would give my last $20 to a homeless person because at the end of the day, they needed more than I do. I know I have parents who love me, who don't take care of me. Like I was that type of person, and I just want him to be that because the world needs more of that. Um, so those are things that I definitely want to instill in him. And as far as things that I didn't have, uh, I don't know. I think I would just, I don't know. I feel like my parents did a pretty good job in preparing me for the world and just letting me know. Like my mom had a lot of, well, both of my parents, they had a lot of conversations that parents typically try not to have with their kids. I had those conversations when I was in elementary school, like at a very young age. So I was pretty much prepped for a lot of things that my peers weren't prepped for way early, you know. Even when it comes down to the sex talk, like my mom had that sex talk with me when I was in kindergarten. Like she wasn't gonna wait. So I knew about all of that way before a lot of my peers. So when everybody wanted to experiment and like try everything, I felt like I already experienced it because I knew about it. Like it starts with your mind first. So I think if you prep a child's mind, they won't be so curious when they go out into the world because they know it already. And like I feel like when you know about something, you know the consequences that could come with that, you know the positive consequences that can come with it, you just feel more well-rounded. And so when you're faced with it, it's not so much of a shock. It's just like, okay, cool, I'm familiar with this. Like, let's keep it pushing. So that's pretty much how my parents raised us. So I didn't grow up curious and wanted to try everything. Like I grew up focused. Like I wanted to. It was more so like, what do I want out of life? Okay, this is what I want. All right, I'm gonna go after this right now. And that's why. I mean, that's another reason why I started acting so young, because I wanted something. I literally was like, what can I do right now that I can reap the benefits in my early 20s? All right, let me pursue acting. And that's what happened. I booked Snowfall when I was 20 years old. So it's just like, you know, showing me the value of like what I want, what I desire, write it down. Like I wrote down, I'm pretty sure I have it somewhere. I gotta find it, but like in my early teens, I wrote down on 2 pieces of paper 9 key points. One of them was being known for my acting talents. One of them was like financial increase. One of them was making an impact on people's lives. One of them was this. It was like 9 key things. I just kept it on my wall. I didn't even necessarily read it every day, but it was a visual that I've seen every day. Like even if it was subconsciously, my mom instilled that in me at a young age, and so it's just like just one of those things where I'm definitely gonna teach my son. It's just like writing things down and making it plain is huge. Like I grew up in a God-fearing home. Like, we always pray together, went to church and stuff like that, and just learning about God and stuff. So all of that is like it's a lot to me that it takes to raise a child that you can be confident in the way that they're gonna go. It's not Parenthood is not easy at all. Even with me having an 8-month-old, like it's not easy. It's a lot of work. So it's just like I can only imagine that work is gonna increase as he gets older. But it's exciting. It's very rewarding. Just how he looks at me like I'm his everything, and it's just like, man, like I gotta show him like how to really maneuver in this world and how to be a man. So yeah.
That's really dope, bro. And I would say, hats off to you for having that mindset. I'm a father of 3. My oldest he's 12, he'll be 13 this year. And I think one of the things you mentioned about, feeding your children information to kind of kill that curiosity early on sets them up for greater success later on down the road when faced with those things. And I think oftentimes you younger, so I don't know how it was. Well, based on what you described, it wasn't like this with your parents, but like with my parents growing up, it was definitely like we'll give you the information we feel like you need at that moment. Anything else we ain't gonna let you know about. So I actually agree with how you're, planning, how we were raised, and then how you're also planning to instill that into your son too, because these kids get so much information from outside sources. So it's best for us as parents to give to them as much as we can so that when the kid or TikTok or whatever that other medium is that's feeding them that info, they already have talked about it with their dad. They talked about it with their mom. So it's like, you know what, like that ain't really impressive to me because I learned about that 2 years ago or a year ago. So definitely keep that with you as you're raising a young king. Um, and another topic we wanted to kind of slide into, it's very I would say controversial nowadays, and I don't know what it was for you growing up, but as a new father, have you thought about how you plan to discipline your kids? Like, do you believe in spankings? You know what I mean? Like, what are your thoughts overall on discipline in general?
Got my ass whooped when I needed it. I mean, I think it's definitely not gonna be like my first resort. Like, cause one thing my mom did, she talked. Like her words sometimes were. You know what I'm saying? So it's not like a first resort thing, but I definitely feel like I'll be around some kids. I'm like, boy, you need a whooping, boy. Like, why you couldn't be my child? So I definitely feel like there are different ways to um, get a child to see your perspective as to why they shouldn't do certain things. You know, which basically like punish your child. Um, I just think that there's ways to do it, and I think it just depends on what it is. But I definitely will not spare the rod at all. No. I'm not, because to me it's like if you don't do it, the world will do it. So it's just like no, I'd rather me discipline my child the way I feel is fit for him to to be on that good path. And because if not, I see a lot of kids that are young. I'm like, bro, like you'll have a rude awakening because you don't you don't know how to respect authority at all because you just like it's all upbringing. It's all upbringing.
Did you and your wife have that discipline talk before y'all had y'all son?
Both grew up getting our ass whooped, so we already
It was already there.
Y'all was already on the same page.
where discipline is not even going to be a question. Even when we're around like our friends' kids, they're like, you can discipline my kids. Because what I noticed is that for some people it's just hard for them to discipline their kids. Like why? Because at the end of the day, that's a form of love. Like love is not one dimensional. Love is not just, oh, let me just tell you I love you, hug you, and kiss on you. No, love is discipline as well. Like if you don't have a well-rounded version of love, then you're gonna build or raise a one-dimensional child that's gonna see things out of one perspective. But I never questioned my mom what she loved. Like who she loved. It was all out of love. Right. So that's even biblical, like everything comes with a consequence. Like when we go through trials and tribulations, we don't question if God loves us or not. Like we know He loves us, but there's a reason why we're going through this. So it's like, okay, figure that part out, but don't question the love because love is just not all peaches and cream. You know what I'm saying?
Nah, I love that, man. And like, one thing I want to do, this platform is to give flowers to, dads and guys like yourself that are raising your kids. I just want to, give you your flowers and your perspective, your mind, man. It seems like you're a really introspective dude. Like you said, you're very observant and you just got a good mind, a good head on your shoulders, man. So I want to just commend you on that, man. I love a lot of the points that you're making. And I think there are some gems that people can appreciate when they're listening to this pod. But, one thing I do also want to talk about too is, we talked before about our straight mental segment that we do. So I want to ask you, man, like, you have a very good upbringing, you kind of knew what you wanted to go after at a very young age, but I kind of use this saying with like, with hard work becomes more work, and you're in a very demanding field as being an actor, right? So like, what's that mental balance for you, like from fatherhood to being an actor? Because like when you're on set, you're locked in as this character, right? Like, and then you got to get off set and like be a father. Like, how do you balance like the two, and what's that look like on a day-to-day?
And so in the middle of filming season 5, once my wife and my son got to LA, it was one of those things where I just, she was doing it for 2 weeks without me. And when they got there, I was like, bro, how did you do this without me? Like, it definitely was a team effort. So it's one of those things, like I would be on set all day. She would be exhausted, like he's probably like not even a month at that time, or a little bit over a month. And, now it's my turn when I come home. So I'm on set for like whatever, 8, 10, 12 hours, and I come home and it's time to switch gears. Like, I'm tired and I may have to wake up early the next morning, but let me go wash these bottles, let me go feed him. If he's up, let me rock him back to sleep. But it's rewarding because at the end of the day, even though, being an actor is my career, I look at life and my perspective on life is different. Acting is not my end all be all. When we look at human connectivity, like we have to remember what is more important. Like this moment with my son right now is more important than me studying my script to go, to go to set tomorrow. Like this is a moment I'll never get. I can learn my lines in like 2 seconds. I know my character, so I'm straight. Like, let me enjoy this moment. But at the end of the day, there are times where you're definitely going to have to lock in, and that's about like having the right support system behind you. Like, my wife, she's a great mother. Like, if I have to lock in for like, let's say an audition or something like that, like, there's no question. You know what I'm saying? Like, I have that time and that space to myself. But it's just a matter of knowing when it's time to lock in fully and when you can be like, okay, I can balance this. You really have to just really know yourself. So I know, like, I ain't gonna lie. When they first got to LA, like that first night, I had to film the next day. That was the worst day I ever had. When I tell you I couldn't remember anything, and it's not even because he was keeping me up. I think it's just the fact that I knew he was there, and I was just like, oh, my son is here. But when I tell you the next day, I couldn't remember any line. It was a scene with Damson. We was walking in Leon's project. I don't know what it was. I was like, line. They'll tell me, I'm like, all right, cool. And then they'll say action. And I'm like, bro, bro, y'all just told me the line. Like, what is this line? You know, that was the first and only time it happened, but it happened. And I was like, okay, I got to definitely prioritize my time. Like, he's here now. I got to still put time to, aside for myself, do what I need to do to take care of my family.
Yeah.
So it's just prioritizing and trial and error.
Right.
Sure.
Yeah. It sounds like it's about having a healthy balance, man. So it's good that it only happened that one day. But I want to ask you, like, what's your top 3 things? You're a new dad, right? So, like, what's top 3 things you still kind of not necessarily scared about as a father, but kind of just struggle with it still, learning? And if you got any advice on those things for the guys or anybody listening, let us know.
You said, what are the top 3 things I'm what?
You still struggling with, like, as a new dad, like, that you still just trying to, get through or figure out?
Honestly, I wouldn't say, I'm not gonna say I don't have any, but I don't, if I do, it doesn't like hit me as such.
Yeah.
I look every day like for what it is. Like every moment is new. So I'm just like, I'm in the moment. I'm very present. So if I'm struggling with something, it doesn't even stick to me like, okay, you're struggling right now. It's just like, all right, how do we move past this? Or what do I need to do to overcome this right now? I don't really well. So honestly, I don't really know if I don't really have an answer for that. I don't really have an answer because like any struggle I have, and honestly, I'm not gonna lie, my son is very easy. Like whenever anybody comes, you have the easiest child. He's so quiet. He got his moments when he's fussy, but I'm not saying he's fussy. He just want to bottle. That's it.
The fact that you even, I was gonna say, the fact that you even bought him on here to begin with, I'm like, oh, like you bought your baby boy. Almost wouldn't do that with a under 1 year old. So I feel it.
I was gonna say, wait till you hit that toddler age or that teenager age, then you might have some tips then, because they get a little hairy then.
I believe, but now he's chilling, man. He's chilling. Like I be wanting to bring him on, like stay. Like when we had a panel, I was like, man, should I bring him on stage? I know he gonna be chilling, but he literally anywhere, like a restaurant, whatever, he's chilling. He just be sitting there, he watch everybody.
That's so dope, bro. That's dope. Really dope, man. So we have a segment here on the Dear Fathers Pod, man, where we like to give our guests a chance to write a letter to their pops. And so in your case, if you could write a letter to your father starting with Dear Fathers, what would you say?
I would say that's deep. That's deep. You know, it's interesting. Before I even get into that, I will say that like I studied with this acting coach when I was 17 years old, and we were trying to break a barrier of my emotion because I wasn't emotionally readily available at all. Like nothing will make me cry, nothing will make me emote for real. And growing up, I didn't understand my dad because he was Caribbean, so he didn't know how to show affection or really like I don't know, like communicate his emotion. So I didn't grow up, receiving that from my dad. So I felt like I didn't really know him. Like he was always there, present, you know what I'm saying, took care of us, never questioned that, whatever. I knew he loved me. I felt like I didn't know him. And that really bothered me. And so I think as I got older, I just understood him more because I found out me and him are a lot alike. Just based off of how we operate internally. And so as I got to know him, I'm like, man, like my dad's cool. You know what I'm saying? Like he just chill. So I would definitely start that letter off with Dear Father, just letting him know how much I appreciate who he is as a man and that I see him and see the real him. And even though as a child, I didn't understand him and how he operated, as a man, I get it. I get it. And it took some time to understand. It took some maturing on my end to understand, but now I understand him and I see him, and I would definitely, let him know that in that letter. I would definitely tell him that I see him for sure.
That's deep, bro. And I think that just kind of gives us, Jesse and I, a lot of times on the pod, we talk about, giving grace. And I think sometimes as kids, it's hard for us to really understand or to give our parents grace when we don't understand certain things. And it sometimes takes becoming an adult, becoming a parent yourself. And then it's like, oh, you know what? I get why you were this way or why you were that way. So I'm glad that, you were able to find some understanding with, why your dad was the way he was, and it helped you tap into why you are the way you are. And it, ultimately made y'all probably tighter than you've ever been. So that's really dope.
Yeah, that's solid, man. I definitely love those letters, man. And we get that all the time when we ask that question. People pause and like it's something to think about. Like even with me, like without knowing my dad growing up for real like that, I'm still even figuring out what to say on that letter, man. So appreciate you for your transparency and kind of lighten the mood a little bit, man. We're gonna go to some rapid fire questions real quick before we get out of here, man. Like just 10 seconds or less, man. We're gonna ask you this or that. You just got to give us an answer, and we're gonna move. We're gonna move through them. James, you want to kick it off?
Yeah. So you from Atlanta, so you appreciate this first one. Gucci Man or Jeezy?
Gucci. That's
All
my
right.
age, honestly.
You said Gucci? Okay, I ain't gonna argue with you on that one. Next one we got LeBron or Jordan.
LeBron.
Got you. Fruit Loops or Cinnamon Toast Crunch?
Ooh. Fruit.
All right, Fresh Prince or the New Bel Air?
Fresh Prince. I like the new Bel Air.
It's dope.
It is
dope.
really dope.
It's dope. One season, so I love the New Bel Air too. Uncle Phil or Michael Kyle from My Wife and Kids?
Uncle Phil.
Uncle Phil, okay. Drake or Kendrick?
Depends on the mood. Depends on the mood. I want to say both. You know what I'm saying? Just depends on the day.
What day today? Who you got? What's your mood today?
Like you know what I'm saying, Tuesday afternoon, Kendrick. It's like, you know what I'm saying, Friday of the weekend, I'm gonna say Drake.
Okay. All right. The Wire or Snowfall?
Oh, why you gonna do that? I'm gonna say Snowfall, you know what I'm saying? Snowfall changed my life, so I'm saying.
Yeah, nah, man. Definitely
Ain't nothing wrong with that.
Nothing wrong with it, man. We definitely appreciate that. Want to lighten the mood up before we got out of here, man. Like, we definitely appreciate your transparency on this call, man. We support everything you do, everything you'll be doing moving forward, and we definitely be following your journey, your acting career, and as a father, man. So we definitely appreciate you today.
Appreciate it, man. Thank you for having me.
For sure, bro. And before we get out of here, just let the people know how they can follow you on social media. And we want to know what's next for you, man. We know you got the final season coming up. So what else you got coming up soon?
So my social media, everything is Isaiah K. John. And as far as like, future projects, right now I've been auditioning for things, but I'm really trying to choose which direction I want to go. I definitely don't want to play a character like Leon. So I want to tap into like the Marvel world and the action world, or just if not that right now, then just do a really cool, dope drama that people connect to. I want to do work. I'd rather not work than to do something that I'm not 100% proud of. So if I have to wait for it, then I'm gonna wait for it. For sure.
That's really dope, man. Like Jesse said, we rooting for you, bro. We big fans. I know whatever you're gonna do post Snowfall is gonna be dope. So we'll be on the lookout, and we'll be at whatever movie theater or small screen we got to be at to support you, bro.
I appreciate it.
I'm Aya Temeti. I'm sure you've heard the saying, but it really does take a village. That's why I chose Kinley, a financial services company proudly built for Black America. Together, we create solutions Go to BEKINLY.com to download the app today.
Standard data rates from your wireless service provider may apply. The Kinley deposit account is established by Central Bank of Kansas City, member FDIC. The Kinley Visa debit card is issued by Central Bank of Kansas City. Consult the deposit account agreement and fee schedule for complete details.
Time is money and I'm working on that richer meal. It's up to me to drop the ball like I'm finna.